Karabakh has always been an integral part of Azerbaijan, and in all periods of historical development was part of it. At the same time, the Armenians in Azerbaijan, and naturally in Nagorno-Karabakh, were not an autochthonous population. In the history of the resettlement of Armenians to Azerbaijan, the period of the reign of Peter I, 1672 to 1725, stands out. Since that time, the issue of resettlement of Armenians has become one of the priority directions of Russia's policy in the Caucasus, in particular in Azerbaijan. In the highest letter to the Armenian people dated November 10, 1724, Peter I wrote, "We declare to you, we received your most humble report, and from them a lengthy oral report about your desire, so that we accept you with your houses and surnames, and for your dwelling and your free stay in our newly received Persian provinces lying along the Caspian Sea, convenient places to take command, and have sent the necessary decrees from himself to our ruler in those newly received Persian provinces, so that they would not only accept you in Jalan and Misandran, in Baku, and in other convenient places when one of you arrives there, not only for living and settling convenient places were taken away and kept in all mercy and protection." In his note on the Armenians, A.S. Gribayedov wrote, "We also talked a lot about the suggestions that the Muslims should make in order to reconcile them with their current burden, which will not last long, and to eradicate from them the fear that the Armenians will take possession of the lands for the first time. In the same sense it was said by me and the chief of police, board members and khans who I had here." Armenian historian T. Agayan writes that in 1828 more than 40,000 Armenians moved to Transcaucasia from Persia, and in 1829 about 90,000 from Turkey. In 1978, a monument was erected in Nagorno-Karabakh in honor of the 150th anniversary of the resettlement of Armenians to Azerbaijan, including Nagorno-Karabakh, after the Turkmenchai Treaty of 1828. However, soon after, during the events of the late 1980s, in order to hide the inconvenient facts, this monument was deliberately destroyed. Russian scientist and researcher Nikolai Shavrov wrote in 1911, "Of the 1.3 million Armenians currently living in Transcaucasia, more than 1 million souls do not belong to the indigenous inhabitants of the region and have been settled by us." However, even those 300,000 Armenians whom Shavrov considered indigenous inhabitants of the region can hardly be considered Aborigines. The Albanian Church is considered the first church in the Caucasus and was founded by Apostle Bartholomew. Before Islam, Christianity was widely practiced on the territory of Azerbaijan. However, it was then replaced by Islam. Despite the spread of Islam in Azerbaijan, the Catholicate was not disbanded in the Middle Ages, and the Albanian population freely attended Albanian churches. These Christians continued to be called Albanians until the 19th century and lived mainly in Karabakh. However, the Russian Emperor Nicholas I eradicated the Albanian Apostolic Church in 1836. All the property was then transferred to the Armenian Church. By the beginning of the 20th century, Karabakh Albanians assimilated with the Armenians, and this is how the Armenian community of Karabakh arose. The situation created in the beginning of the 20th century was complicated. Armenian separatists, with their aggressive policy towards Azerbaijani people, only made the situation more difficult. After establishing the Soviet regime in Azerbaijan, there were a lot of disputes about the ownership of Karabakh. But thanks to the efforts of N. Narimanov and the Armenian A. Mikoyan, Karabakh remained within the boundaries of the Azerbaijan SSR. Resolved: A. Proceeding from the need for national peace between Muslims and Armenians, the economic ties of Upper and Lower Karabakh, and its permanent ties with Azerbaijan, leave Nagorno-Karabakh within Azerbaijan SSR, giving it broad regional autonomy with the administrative center in the city of Shusha, which is part of the autonomous region. Votes for, 4, abstained, 3. B. Instruct the Central Committee of Azerbaijan to determine the boundaries of the autonomous region and submit for approval to the Caucasian Bureau of the Central Committee of the RCP. C. Instruct the Presidium of the Caucasian Bureau of the Central Committee to negotiate with the Central Committee of Armenia and the Central Committee of Azerbaijan about a candidate for the Emergency Committee of Nagorno-Karabakh. D. The scope of the autonomy of Nagorno-Karabakh shall be determined by the Central Committee of Azerbaijan and submitted for approval to the Caucasian Bureau of the Central Committee. From A. Mikoyan's report to Chairman of the Council of People's Commissars, V. Lenin. The Dashnaks, the agents of the Armenian government, are seeking the annexation of Karabakh to Armenia. But for the population of Karabakh, it would mean losing the source of their life in Baku and contacting Yerevan, with which they have never been associated with anything. At the 5th Congress, the Armenian peasantry decided to recognize and also join Soviet Azerbaijan. The claims of the leadership of Armenian SSR to Nagorno-Karabakh in November 1945 was marked by a telegram from Secretary of the Central Committee of the CPSU, G. Malenkov. The Secretary of the Central Committee of the Communist Party of the Armenian SSR, G. Arutyunov, tried to argue his proposal to transfer the NKAO to the Armenian SSR, along with the desire of the population to autonomy, as well as the proposal receiving more favorable conditions for its development. On December 10, 1945, Azerbaijani leader M.D. Bagirov sent the Secretary of the Central Committee of the CPSU, G. Malenkov, a letter in which he made a counter-proposal, in which he agreed to transfer NKAO to the Armenian SSR, but exclude Shusha region populated by Azerbaijanis, in exchange for the transfer to the Azerbaijan SSR of the Azizbayov, Bidzin, and Karabaghlar regions of Armenian SSR inhabited by Azerbaijanis, accompanying all this with a certificate of the political history of Karabakh. After that, the given question was removed from the agenda, but the Armenian side did not refuse the plans to annex the territory of Azerbaijan. On December 23, 1947, the Council of Ministers of the USSR issues Resolution No. 4083 on the resettlement of collective farmers and other Azerbaijani population from the Armenian SSR to the Kura Araks lowland of the Azerbaijan SSR. The difficult position of the head of the Azerbaijan SSR, M.D. Bagirov, blocked this process, but he was forced to agree to continue the resettlement of Azerbaijanis to the low-lying part of the Kura River. From 1948 to 1953, over 150,000 Azerbaijanis were resettled. They were violently relocated from their historical lands, mountainous regions on the present territory of Armenia, and the waterless at the time steppes of the Mulan and Mel plains. In their new places of settlement, the Azerbaijanis were poorly adapted for the mountain pasture economy of the migrant. On February 18, 1988, M.S. Gorbachev declared the need to revise the national question in the USSR, inspiring the leaders of Armenia even more. Held on February 20, 1988, the session of the Council of People's Deputies of the NKAO, in which 110 out of 140 deputies were Armenians, did not allow a small group of Azerbaijani deputies into the meeting hall, and voted to transfer NKAO to the Armenian SSR. The Supreme Soviet of the Armenian SSR agreed to this on June 15, 1988. Less than a month later, on July 12, 1988, the 8th session of the 20th Convocation of the Delegates of the Nagorno-Karabakh Autonomous Region adopted a resolution on separation of NKAO from Azerbaijan. The decision of Nagorno-Karabakh secession was unilaterally rejected that same day. 6 days later, on July 18, 1988, the Presidium of the Supreme Council USSR issued the decree and the decisions of the Supreme Soviets of the Armenian SSR and Azerbaijan SSR on the issue of Nagorno-Karabakh, once again confirming Nagorno-Karabakh Autonomous Region as an integral part of the Azerbaijan SSR. For 30 years, Karabakh has been under the occupation of Armenian troops. People fled from their native lands. A huge number of people were killed and suffered as a result of Armenian aggression. We want justice. Karabakh is Azerbaijan, and we will return our home territories.